Hey friends, Rebecca Eloisa here. Today I'm actually coming to you from Korea. I just landed a couple days ago and I've really been exploring. But before I do anything else, I wanted to sit down and film this video, basically outlining the top 5 changes that I made that helped me become a six-figure business owner. And the cool thing is I'm actually going to recommend a book for each tip that I get. So there's gonna be a lot of information in this video. Make sure you sit down, get comfortable, get ready to take notes. And if you like to read, then it's even a better bonus just for you. Because I will link all of the books that I mentioned in the description box down below. And trust me, I'm a reader. I read at least a book a month. And so these aren't going to be super common recommendations, but they're things that have really helped me out in my journey to 6 figures and beyond. So if you're interested in that, keep on watching. So this list is going to be extremely helpful for you if you are brand new, a baby, to social media marketing, having your own agency. If you're a new SMMA owner or some kind of freelancer, or this is your side hustle, it's gonna be super important. Also, if you're not doing SMMA, but you have another type of business, I strongly believe that all of these books and tips are going to be extremely helpful to you. I spent the last year really learning how to optimize different areas of my life and my business and really curated these books. And like I mentioned before, these are going to be books that are ones that you probably haven't heard of and are definitely not on all of the lists of things you should read, like the Habit book and this other book and Think and Grow Rich and all of that kind of stuff, which are great books. I've read a lot of them, but these are ones that are a little lesser known. These tips and books have actually been recommended to me by a lot of my clients and even my business coach. And one thing about them is that they're all very extremely super duper successful business owners and entrepreneurs. I'm actually recommending these books in steps. So the first one I mentioned should be the first one that you read and start off with. And then as we go on, second, third, fourth, all the way down to number 5, you want to read these in order because they also correspond to the tips. And these are the pieces of information that I think you should learn in this specific order. Okay? Okay. Get it? Got it? Good. Yeah. The very first tip and mindset change that I had to make in order to hit 6 figures in my business was to actually learn how to take full responsibility. So that's full responsibility for myself and for my team and for my clients. For example, if one of my team members made a mistake while doing something for one of my clients and we ended up publishing a post, my client noticed it and it reflects obviously back on me in the business. And my client may ask, hey, why'd this happen? Instead of saying like, oh my gosh, like my team member, she made a mistake and blame her. Instead of doing that, I had to train myself to really take full responsibility. Because if my team member made a mistake, someone that I hired, then that means I made a mistake. Whether it's a mistake in hiring them, which if you have good hiring practices, it usually isn't. But even like a mistake in training them, a mistake in being clear about the expectations with dealing with this certain client, all of these different things that I could have done differently to where as a leader, I could have made sure that that mistake didn't happen. So taking full responsibility. If my client is getting on my nerves and they're annoying the heck out of me, that's also my fault, right? And you may think, how is that your fault if your client is being annoying? And the truth is that one, like I chose that client. And second, I have to look at myself and say, why am I annoyed right now? Is it because I'm overwhelmed, overworked? Is it because they keep asking for extra stuff and I do it? And realizing like, okay, this might be happening because of a miscommunication. I may not have been clear about my boundaries. Or potentially, if they keep asking for last minute revisions that are really, taking a long time, or they're not happy about the service, then for me, that makes me have to look back and say, okay, do we need to rework our strategy? Or also maybe I should relook at my contract, because if I'm feeling annoyed by last minute revisions, then perhaps there needs to be a clause in there that says, like, after 3 revisions made within an hour of a post, then you'll incur like a 15% charge or something like that. Or does that mean that as a service provider, I shouldn't be available 24/7? Does that mean I have to let my clients know, hey, if you message us, then we'll respond to you within 24 hours, right? So if there's some kind of issue in your business, whether it's with your team or your clients or your supply chain or whatever it may be, your website, the first tip is to learn how to take full responsibility. And that is something that I think everyone just needs to work on. One, because it's a never ending growth process. But also it's something that I don't really think we're born with. Because we won't get into that. The book that really taught me how to take full responsibility for not only my life, but also my business, my team, is the book Man Up by Bedros Keuilian. If you don't know who Bedros Keuilian is, you need to go look him up right now. I'm just gonna say he's a beast, okay? Not only in business, but quite frankly and obviously in the gym. Let me tell you about this book. So if you're somebody who makes a lot of excuses, you're gonna feel attacked. Things like, but I can't, there's no way, it's too hard, it's impossible, nobody else is doing it. What he has to say about that is enough. Get off your booty, or what my dad would say, your behind. Get off your behind and make your someday goals a priority today. No excuses, get it done. Get off of your behind and get it done, okay? The full title of the book is Man Up, How to Cut the Bull, beep, and kick behind in business and in life. Man Up, How to Cut the Bull and Kick Behind in business and in life. It's your guide to doing exactly that. So basically it's a no-nonsense approach to business, and I highly recommend it for everyone. If you're brand new to business, now that I'm telling you about this, that's amazing because you're gonna learn this now. And even if you're more seasoned, I think it's good to refresh. Even for me, I've read this book already, but this is something that I want to read at least like once a year just to stay fresh on it. And this one was recommended by my amazing business coach. So after you read Man Up and learn how to take full responsibility for your business and life, then you're gonna wanna move over to the second book. But before I reveal that book, the second tip, the second piece of advice is you are going to want to constantly be absorbing business information, okay? And you take the meat and you spit out the bone. Now, I have this goal of reading at least one book a month, sometimes business, sometimes health, sometimes healing, sometimes psychology, sometimes some Japanese wabi-sabi interesting stuff. But this book is something I didn't really want to read, but it just happened to show up in my life. I actually believe I found it at a thrift store and I thought, okay, I'll just read it. But before I say the title or who this book is written by, I'm just gonna say this is a no judgment zone, and good information is good information no matter where it comes from, right? So this might ruffle some of your feathers, but for me, I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to make a successful business that's going to keep my clients happy, but also leave the world better off. So I need to be very prepared to do that, and I will take information in growth and education from a lot of different areas. So this book is called Midas Touch. Like, you know that song, I got the Midas touch. Everything I touch turns to gold, right? That song. So this book, Midas Touch, Why Some Entrepreneurs Get Rich and Why Most Don't. It basically covers 5 principles, so for each finger, 5 principles of business that you want to know and become really familiar with if you want to grow. So we're talking, like this book is talking not just 6 figures, but like beyond, like millionaires, multi-million-dollar companies, and even billion-dollar companies. So this is something you're definitely going to want to read, but it's Midas Touch by none other than the ex-past president of the US, Mr. Donald Trump, and Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is actually a really good author. He also wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yes, that's a great book for another video. But yeah, Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump co-wrote this book together. Midas Touch, Why Some Entrepreneurs Get Rich and Why Most Don't. And if you're someone who is triggered by capitalists, which I'm sure you're probably not because you're watching this video and trying to make money, not only make money, but create a business that serves people. But if you're triggered by like pompous behavior and just specifically Donald Trump and like those like top level, like elite, like rich people, this book will most likely trigger you. But honestly, trust me, if that is one of your triggers, I recommend reading it because I think it's good to face those triggers sometimes and see if you can work through it to actually glean the good information that this book has. Okay, I'm not gonna go too deep into it because I wanna cover more, but basically it talks about the 5 different areas you wanna have in a successful business. Because like the title says, some entrepreneurs get rich and some don't. Actually, it says why most entrepreneurs don't get rich. And that's true. A lot of businesses fail within the first year. So if you're also trying to go for longevity, then I highly recommend this book. Again, everything's gonna be linked in my description box down below. Book number 3 is a book that literally changed my life. Hallelujah. God is good for bringing this book into my life. And let me say, this is one, after you learn how to take full responsibility with Bedros Keuilian. This is secondly, how you learn how to get the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold with Kiyosaki and Trump. After you read those 2 books, the third thing that you really want to focus on is improving your systems and processes within your business. Now, you may be making good money on your own, doing things on your own, right? But you can only scale so much. When I was working on my own and managing everything on my own without systems and processes, just doing the work as it came at me, I was pretty overwhelmed and I realized that I could only handle maybe 3 or 4 clients max before I hit my limit and was like, I would hit like this overwhelmed wall like every 3 weeks right before my period. I'd be like, I can't do it. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so tired. I need a break. La 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 la. Everyone's getting on my nerves. But that's because I didn't have the right systems and processes set up. So what happens when you set up systems is your systems basically work for you. So they are automations within yourself and within your team. Systems and processes are basically automations within your team and within yourself. So basically these things work even when you're not working. So I just painted the picture of what my life was like before setting up systems. And now, after setting up systems, the cool thing is that I can actually leave my business and not talk to my team for an entire week, and everything will still be running smoothly. The clients will be served, the posts will go out, everything will be approved, everything will be pre-scheduled for at least a week. That's how you know that you have good systems and processes. And that's leaving for a week without coming back to a broken business or clients mad and leaving. So the cool thing is that once you set up more and more systems, then the less and less you have to be in the business. So the cool thing is when I set up good systems and hired a good team, I was really able to start working on my business versus in my business. So I'm not in there pre-scheduling posts and video editing and cutting up clips and stuff like that. I actually am able to do bigger stuff like outreach and respond to my clients and go on trips with my clients. Like one of my clients, he actually had this really awesome, what they call the elite day for the top tier of his course members. And I was able to fly to Washington, D.C. to go do that. Another one of my clients had an event in Dallas. I went over there. The next weekend, I was in San Diego with them. So I was in San Diego with another client. And the cool thing is that I'm able to do that and travel. But if I didn't have systems and processes set up, then I would never be able to actually do that, because I'd be too busy sitting on my computer doing the editing, trying to do my own accounting, trying to do everything myself, which is why it's so important to outsource. But in order to outsource and do it effectively, you're going to need to have good systems and processes set up. The thing about your business is that this is something my business coach says, but if you have a business problem, it's usually also a personal problem. So for me, not having SOPs, even in my own life, I realized was actually causing a lot of unnecessary stress and would eventually lead to overwhelm every 3 weeks. Right before my period. Why? But the cool thing is that one of my clients actually recommended the book Essentialism by Mr. Greg. And the funny thing about this book cover, it's like all these like lines like all jumbled up, and then it's like this smooth line. So that's how I felt before. I felt like I was just in a mess of knots and tangled up. But then once you learn how to really prioritize only the most essential things, then it really streamlines the rest of your life and the rest of your business. Now, Essentialism is actually a New York Times bestseller, and as someone who's worked on multiple New York Times bestselling campaigns, I will say that it is not easy to make that list. So one, you already know it's going to be a good book. New York Times bestseller, more than 1 million copies sold. Woo! You go, Greg. Says, a timely, essential read for anyone who feels overcommitted, overwhelmed, or overworked. This book is talking to me. This is talking to past Becca. I don't even recognize that girl anymore, but I know she existed. Now I have everything streamlined. I know what I'm doing on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I have a cutoff time for work. It's all set up and set to the point where, like I said, if I wanted to, I could leave for a week and take a vacation and not have to even answer one email. So yeah, I highly recommend Essentialism for anybody who feels overworked and overburdened and all those things. If you know my story where I was working corporate and I ended up quitting everything and took basically a yes girl summer, I quit because I was overworked, overburdened, and feeling so overwhelmed that I had dangerous thoughts of hurting myself. And it's crazy to say because I never thought I would be there, and once I had that thought, I was like, okay, this isn't me, I need to change something, and I did. So this book has helped immensely. I know that sounds crazy, but we're all human, nobody's perfect, we all have our mess, but like one of my favorite producers said, let your mess become your message. And so that's why I'm sharing it with you. Okay, let's move to the next book. Tip 3 and tip 4 actually kind of go together. I do still recommend reading them in this order, but you'd want to read them closer together. So my next tip is outsource, outsource, outsource. Yeah, you want to outsource. So you want to make a list of all of the things that you do in your business, okay? And then the next thing is you want to separate them into 2 columns. Okay, for me, I'll have like video editing. I have responding to emails. I'll have in-person events. I'll have recording. I'll have manual posting, pre-scheduling, all these different social media marketing manager tasks, right? But what you want to do is see what can I outsource out of this list. For example, for me, something that I've been able to outsource is pre-scheduling posts. So if we have a client who posts on YouTube Shorts, we can use YouTube to pre-schedule those posts. And it's super helpful because we don't have to be up and be like, oh my gosh, it's 9 a.m. I need to post, but I don't have Wi-Fi. We get a pre-schedule. So what I did was I found a virtual assistant, and she's amazing. You know who you are. I found her on Upwork, and we started working together. At the time, she had zero reviews on her Upwork channel, but I'm so happy we found each other. She reached out to me, and as time has gone on, she's actually basically been promoted from a virtual assistant to now a social media manager. But she went from virtual assistant to then pre-scheduling all of our posts, and then now I've been able to train her to be a social media manager. And we've been together now for a while, like definitely around like 2 years or so. But well, not 2 years yet, but like almost. I don't really remember the date off the top of my head. But she was the first person I hired to really and I realized that I like outsourced something to. And I understand if you have a business, it's like your baby, right? Your business is your baby. You don't want them to make mistakes. Nobody does it like you, right? Nobody provides a service like you. But the thing is, if you want to grow and you don't want to be overburdened and stressed out and like overworked and all those things and always having to be like, I'm busy, then outsourcing is the way to go. Basically hiring contractors or eventually hiring employees to help you like really accomplish the mission of your business and eventually like serve more people. Also, if you have digital nomad aspirations, or if you want to be someone who really like does like more fun things in life and like your money's a little more automated, then I highly recommend that you outsource. Like I mentioned, I can leave for a week and everyone's chilling. Like my clients wouldn't even really know. I always let them know that I'm gone, but they wouldn't know, like there wouldn't be any like bad things that happened or huge massive mistakes or anything if I did like need to leave for a week. Or even if I'm traveling and flying like from North America to Asia and the flight is like 15 hours long, or it's a 30-hour travel time period. Nothing is going to go wrong because I've been able to train my team and set up the systems and processes to the point where I can actually do that. Subtle flex, because girl, it took forever to get here. It was not easy, but these books helped me out. And the book that helped me with outsourcing was The 4-Hour Workweek by Mr. Tim Ferriss. The 4-Hour Workweek: escape the 9-to-5, live anywhere, and join the new rich. Basically, how to live more and work less. Woo! Now, Tim Ferriss's whole thing is that you can still make a lot of money and only work 4 hours a week. So yeah, he was like making $40K a year and 80 hours a week. And he was like, F this, I don't like this. Life is too short, YOLO. Peace out, left the country. Boom, he's gone. And now he's making, or at the time of the writing this, $40,000 a month and only working 4 hours a week. Hence the 40-hour work week. So I saw that and I was like, I'm trying to get on Tim's level. Let me read this and get the information. And let me say it's good. You've most likely heard of this book if you are a digital nomad or someone who is trying to retire early. So if you're in the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. I highly, highly recommend this. How to eliminate 50% of your work in 48 hours using the principles of this book, right? So if you're on that, you're trying to get 40K a month, that sounds nice. You're trying to hit that in only 4 hours a week, I highly recommend reading this book. It'll change your perspective about work and money and the correlation between the two. So you don't have to actually trade your time for money, because let me tell you that is not fun. It's just so yesterday. Okay, let's go on to the next book. The 5th tip that is going to help you reach your first 100K plus year in business is to increase your prices. You're most likely not charging enough for what you do, plain and simple. Okay, especially if you're a woman, because statistically women tend to get paid less than men, and sometimes that has to do with not asking for what you're worth and knowing what you're worth. Women of color, so women and people of color tend to do this. So what I really highly recommend is to increase your prices, especially if you've been working for a client for like 6 months or so, or even like a year. It's probably time to increase your prices if you've been getting good results for them because you've proven your worth. And even if you have a product that you're actually physically selling, then it may be time to also increase those prices on those products too, even if it's just a little bit. Because the thing is, when your product is more expensive or your service is more expensive, then it, in people's minds, becomes more important. And not just in people's minds, but if you're actually delivering really good results, then your product and service is more important because of the results that you're getting. Especially with social media management, one thing is that there's like almost like a direct return on investment. So if you're doing like Facebook ads, you know exactly how much money you're making for your client. If you're doing organic social media, it's a little bit different because theirs is mainly like brand awareness for one, and then also is a bit of like you may be selling a product for them, but you don't necessarily know exactly like how many dollars you're bringing in. But brand awareness is very, very important. So if they are profitable, then I highly recommend raising your prices. Now, when my business coach told me, when are you gonna raise your prices? I felt like lightning had struck my heart, and I just felt suddenly extremely scared because the thought of raising my prices was scary. Like I hadn't even really asked for a raise back when I was working corporate. I was not into negotiation at all. I just felt really nervous about that kind of confrontation. But he's like, you can do it. And so I did it. And the crazy thing is that it really actually brings in, from my experience, a different type of client. The crazy thing is that when I did raise my prices and new people came to inquire about my services, that price almost became a filter of the quality of client that I was getting. I'm extremely happy and thankful with all my clients that I have today, and that has been almost a direct result of really placing a higher value on my services. Because the truth is that we actually bring in like millions of dollars for our clients, and our retainer is not $1 million. So that being said, raise your prices. And if it makes you nervous and negotiation is not your strength, I highly recommend this book. It's You Can Negotiate Anything by Mr. Herb Cohen. This is an old-timey book. My dad was recommended this book as a teenager by one of his like internship, a lawyer at his internship. And it like basically changed his life in a very positive way. And if you read the book, you'll find out why. I came across the book and was like, okay, let me read it. And it's funny because it's old-timey. It's a little bit outdated in the sense of it's not going to be written like the book, The Subtle Art of Giving an F. Like it's not super modern like that at all. But it's so funny. It's hilarious the way that he writes. And so it's very entertaining, but you're gonna learn a lot. Not only how to negotiate prices and stuff and within your business, but even how to negotiate for like things at a swap meet. So this is a life skill that I think everybody should learn, but not everybody learns. So if you're good at negotiation, then you kind of just rise to the top. But this is You Can Negotiate Anything by Herb Cohen. All right, friends, to recap, the 5 tips that I recommend to hit the first 100K in your business is 1, to take full leadership and responsibility. And with that comes the book Man Up. Numero 2 is just overall business help to get that Midas touch. And that's Midas Touch by Trump and Kiyosaki. Numero 3, systems and processes, get those figured out. And I recommend the book Essentialism by Mckeown. And then number 4 is learn how to outsource, and I recommend the 4-Hour Workweek by Ferriss. And number 5 is increase your prices. And if that scares you like it scared me, you can read the book You Can Negotiate Anything by Herb Cohen. And funny thing is, right after I read that book, I was at Macy's and I picked up this pair of jeans that were super cute, but they had like little strings coming out of them, like they was starting to unravel. And I was like, oh, like I would normally just buy them full price, and myself, I would just fix them. But in the book, it recommends if you want to negotiate something, then point out a defect in it, because that defect automatically makes it worth less. And so I was like super nervous because, you know, confrontation. And then so I went up, I was like, let me just practice these real quick, because if I can't do it on jeans, I can't do it in my business. I went to go stand in line, and another thing the book points out is that when people have less time, they're most likely to make a deal with you. And I went to a line that was long. And so the line was super long. The guy was trying to ring things up. And if you work in the store, I'm sorry, but I had to practice this. And I got to him and I was like, hey, like there's actually like some string unraveling right here in the pants. And my heart's like, and then he looked at it and he's like where? He couldn't find it because it was super minimal. And then I was like, right there. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, oh yeah, I'm giving you 15% off. And so then he did. He gave me a discount. I got the jeans for a discount, and I've worn them like a whole bunch because they're one of my favorite pairs of jeans. So when you're reading these books, I highly recommend also practicing this stuff that you're learning. But alrighty guys, that's everything I have for you today. Remember, the books are in the description box down below, so buy them, check them out. If you have any questions or video requests, comment them down below in the comments, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Alrighty, bye.